I watched the evolution of both these guys. This didn't happen overnight. In 2022, before he owned Twitter, Elon tweeted this chart depicting how he felt about the liberal side having shifted so much that it left a basically liberal centrist like him now labeled a conservative. I related. I related to the kind of mean girl shit you get from the cool kids in Wokeville when you're perceived that way. They tried real hard to cancel Rogan a few years ago. And when Elon hosted Saturday Night Live in 2021, well before he was a Trumper, some of the cast members gave him the cold shoulder for the sin of being rich. If you want to win my vote, don't give me the ick. You know what the ick is, right? It's a term mostly used in the dating world to describe that moment when one of the people, usually the man, does something so icky that the woman cannot forgive it or forget it. Like sending a dick pic, or being mean to the waitress, paying for dinner with a coupon, getting his mother to call you when you dump him, asking for sex in baby voice. Once you give her the ick, it's a wrap.
Bill Maher just dropped a political grenade on the Democrats, making it crystal clear he's done playing along with the far-left spectacle. In a fiery, no-mercy monologue on Real Time, the unapologetic comedian unleashed his rage over how the left has completely detached from reality, and he hinted this might be his final bow. Shocking for the woke faithful, maybe, but if you've been watching Maher closely, you'd know this moment has been building for years. He's been inching toward this confrontation for a long time, and last night, he finally pulled the trigger. Before we dive headfirst into the wreckage, hit that subscribe button so you never miss the kind of truth bombs that shake the room. Let's get into the fireworks.
Dilemma for Democrats. Their young people, their key constituency, not only don't like their own civilization, they like the wrong one. They actually think Hamas is a liberation movement. They chant for the Houthis. They're chanting, "We will honor our martyrs" at Yale. They're looking for love in all the wrong countries. Someone needs to tell the kids that America is not the society where women basically have no rights, where there's zero freedom of religion and where dissent is punishable by death. Our democracy may be on life support, but we still have elections. They don't.
So what's got Bill Maher so fired up and ready to abandon ship? Here's the raw and unapologetic breakdown. The left has completely gone off the rails with their obsessive woke crusade, and Maher's been sounding the alarm for years. He's warned Democrats they're racing down a self-destructive path at full speed, but they refuse to listen. Now they're not just pushing delusional agendas. They're indoctrinating kids to despise America while glorifying regimes that openly want to see it destroyed. That's not progress, it's madness. And for Maher, this was the breaking point. He couldn't stomach it any longer, so he exploded in classic, no-holds-barred style. Let's just say he didn't bite his tongue. And thank goodness for that.
Coachella this year, when an Irish rap group projected onto screens, Israel, free Palestine, got big applause. Globalize the Intifada is the catchphrase that's really catching on these days, as if worldwide suicide bombing and cosplaying Islamic revolutionaries is the answer to our problems. At an AOC Bernie Sanders rally in Idaho last month, someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag, and the crowd erupted in approval. What should have happened after that is one of the adults on stage should have told their young, loyal followers, this is not a symbol of freedom. This is.
You could see the frustration etched across Maher's face as he called out party heavyweights like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for fueling the collapse of patriotism among young Democrats. The irony? Sanders and AOC keep proving his point. They're not uniting the country. They're fanning the flames of outrage, deepening divisions, and catering to the most radical corners of their base. Maher's voice trembled with anger as he tore into Democratic leadership, accusing them of tossing aside time-tested American values in exchange for TikTok fame and fleeting applause. This wasn't just a rant. It was a eulogy for the party he once defended. He slammed them for abandoning the very principles that built this nation: unity, resilience, and reason. Instead of inspiring the next generation to love and lead America, they're teaching them to resent it. And Maher, clearly at the end of his rope, made it painfully clear that this betrayal is exactly why he's ready to walk away.
Thought leaders in the Democratic Party keep encouraging and not rebuking the idea that America is cringe and the people who run Gaza are great. The Democrats are doomed. Alyssa Slotkin's right. Liberals are weak and woke, especially the white ones, and they indulge all sorts of nonsense from their kids, a pattern that then continues on in the Democratic Party. Last election, it was all the gender stuff, the insistence that men can have babies and such, and now I fear that we like the terrorists is the new that. Liberals need to push back on the dumb ideas that come from their children.
Maher's anger was boiling over with every sentence as he tore into the very party he once proudly supported. He accused them of becoming unbearably woke and completely disconnected from real life. In his view, their shiny new ideas are nothing more than recycled fantasies that have nothing to do with the everyday struggles of working Americans. He pointed to AOC's so-called economic revolution as proof. Nothing but a rebranded version of early 20th century socialism, an ideology that has failed spectacularly every time it's been tried. Her grand speeches are either wildly exaggerated, dangerously naive, or flat-out impossible to pull off. Yet, despite how unrealistic her plans are, the Democratic establishment is determined to push her as their golden ticket for 2028. Maher sees right through it. This isn't progress. It's political theater disguised as revolution. He's stunned that a party that once fought for the working class is now obsessed with chasing social media fame and utopian dreams, and he's had more than enough.
We're too early to strategize. Democrats have been having a lot of donor retreats lately where liberal strategists hold ideathons, where they try to figure out why they keep losing elections. You know, apart from using words like ideathon. And now one idea that's getting a lot of attention is the Dems need to find their Joe Rogan, a liberal Joe Rogan, because that's why Kamala lost. Republicans have a podcast.
Yes, that was actually one of their big strategies, and honestly, it's not the worst idea on paper. But before the 2024 election, Democrats had already burned bridges with neutral media outlets and independent podcasts. Their rigid policies and constant purity tests drove away anyone who didn't agree with them 100% of the time. And when once neutral voices dared to offer criticism, the Democrats didn't respond with conversation. They hit back with cancellation campaigns, public shaming, and online witch hunts. Naturally, those pushed away went looking for alternatives, and many ended up backing Donald Trump. Not necessarily because they loved him, but because they were fed up with the Democrats' arrogance and intolerance. Even Joe Rogan, once considered a centrist voice in the podcast world, told his massive audience to vote Republican. That shift wasn't random. It was the direct result of a party that chose to silence dissent instead of listening. Now they're scrambling to win back the very people they drove away.
I think his mind is completely inflexible. His neck, yes. But not his mind. And he's expressed unease with some things Trump is doing, as has a certain disgruntled former employee named Elon Musk, who, like Joe, is another guy who 5 years ago was thought of as a liberal, but got driven into the other camp by bad attitudes and bad ideas, a reversal I completely understand, although I would never emulate. I also see the woke mind virus. I just don't jump from frying pans into fires.
Right now, more and more people are drifting toward the MAGA movement. And whether he admits it or not, Bill Maher is slowly moving in that direction too. Sure, he recently claimed in an interview that he's not making the switch, but let's be honest, that's exactly what Elon Musk said at first. Same with Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, and even Joe Rogan. They all denied any political shift until the Democratic Party's extremism made the choice for them. Maher might not be ready to wear the red hat yet, but his criticisms, frustrations, and increasingly similar views make it clear he's not far from crossing that line. He's sick of the endless virtue signaling, tired of the censorship, and disgusted by the party's abandonment of common sense. At some point, when your values no longer match your party's, the writing is on the wall. Maher may insist he's staying, but his words are already walking out the door.
Watch the evolution of both these guys. This didn't happen overnight. In 2022, before he owned Twitter, Elon tweeted this chart depicting how he felt about the liberal side having shifted so much that it left a basically liberal centrist like him now labeled a conservative. I related. I related to the kind of mean girl you get from the cool kids in Wokeville when you're perceived that way. They tried real hard to cancel Rogan a few years ago. And when Elon hosted Saturday Night Live in 2021, well before he was a Trumper, some of the cast members gave him the cold shoulder for the sin of being rich.
The Democrats have turned themselves into a walking contradiction. Loud, proud, and completely out of touch. They scream about hating the rich, yet cozy up to billionaire donors and welcome corporate elites into their inner circle. They preach equality for all races, yet quietly sideline voices like Rashida Tlaib from their speaker lineup at key events. They call themselves champions of the working class, yet push forward candidates who have never worked a blue-collar job or even pretended to understand what living paycheck to paycheck feels like. And let's not forget, the so-called party of intellect handed the country a candidate who can barely get through a sentence without a teleprompter. It's hypocrisy stacked on delusion, wrapped in pure arrogance. So really, why wouldn't someone like Bill Maher look for the exit? When a party loses touch with reality, mocks its own supporters, and values symbolism over real solutions, even its most loyal voices start walking away, and Maher's already halfway gone.
To win my vote, don't give me the ick. You know what the ick is, right? It's a term mostly used in the dating world to describe that moment when one of the people, usually the man, does something so icky that the woman cannot forgive it or forget it. Like sending a dick pic or being mean to the waitress, paying for dinner with a coupon, getting his mother to call you when you dump him, asking for sex in baby voice. Once you give her the ick, it's a wrap.
What more proof do you need that Maher's packing his bags and heading for the door? In plain terms, he's practically warning the Democrats, don't push me away if you still want my vote. That's not comedy, it's a serious message, and one he's repeated more than once. But this time, you can hear the exhaustion in his voice. The sarcasm is sharper, the attacks more personal, and the patience completely gone. Maher isn't just annoyed, he's drained. He's sick of playing the referee in a party that refuses to listen. Sick of pretending the far-left fringe hasn't taken over the entire agenda. At this point, he isn't asking them to change. He's just explaining why he's already mentally out the door.
Weeks ago, Bobby Kennedy, scion of the most storied dynasty in Democratic Party history, dropped out of the presidential race and threw his support not to the Democrat, but to Trump. And everyone all at once said the same thing. Bobby Kennedy did something weird?
With the mountain of examples Maher has laid out, loud, clear, and relentless, it's impossible to deny he's jumping ship. At this stage, it's not speculation. It's a slow-motion departure. And here's the warning. While it might look like the left is inching back toward the center, don't be fooled. That illusion would disappear overnight if they decide to put forward figures like Bernie Sanders, AOC, or Gavin Newsom as their champions in the 2028 race. These icons of woke politics could drag the party straight back into the pit of cancel culture, socialist fantasies, and anti-American rhetoric. If Democrats fall for that trap again, they won't just lose moderates like Maher, they'll lose middle-class voters, independents, and the swing states they can't win without. Choosing these figures isn't progress, it's political suicide. And if they take that route, they'll be handing the White House to the GOP on a silver platter. No recounts required. Maher's frustration is more than personal. It reflects a growing wave of lifelong liberals waking up to a party that's abandoned its values and replaced substance with empty slogans. He may not be wearing a MAGA hat yet, but his words sound more like a warning shot than a pledge of loyalty. Unless the left changes course fast, voices like Maher's won't just keep warning. They'll start walking, and time is running out.